Right, so this is the first of the walkthroughs we're going to do to help you prepare for your GCSE English exam. And in this first walkthrough, we're going to deal with things like how the paper is structured, what you have to do on each of the questions, and where you can find the basic things you'll need to help you revise well. As you can see, we're started on the AQA website, aqa.org.uk. The first thing I want to do is show you where you can find past papers and resources. So from the home page, if you scroll down to the tab that's marked past papers and you click it, you come up with this screen. I'm just going to change these, so we've got English, scroll down, there we go, GCSE, and what you do need to be careful of is the specification. You need 4705, so there we are, English language 4705, and that should bring up all of the past papers for all of the series since 2012. For the purpose of this website, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using all of the papers from the November 2014 series. So you've got the rest of the years to have a go at yourselves. When you're looking for things, make sure you're choosing higher tier, it's higher and foundation here, and you'll need two things. You'll need the question paper, and you'll also need the insert as well. So make sure you download both of those. I've got them open up here. So we're going to start by looking at the question paper. So this is what it will look like. It is 2 hours and 15 minutes long, and as you can see, it's split into 6 questions. There's 2 sections to the exam. Section A has 4 questions and tests reading, whereas Section B has 2 questions, questions 5 and 6, and that one tests your writing skills. What will also be given to you on the day of the exam is what's called the insert. So if we click over here, we can see that this is the insert. And this is used for Section A, the reading section, and it includes 3 sources. The first one will always be from a newspaper. The second will usually be a news article as well, but a bit shorter. And the third one, if we scroll all the way down, will either be from a diary or, in this case, a memoir. So if we go back to the question paper, we'll have a look at the questions. So 2 hours and 15 for the whole paper. You get 15 minutes to read the sources we've just looked at, and then you get an hour to answer on each of the sections. So Section A reading, you get an hour on 4 questions. So question 1. Question 1 will always have these words at the beginning. What do you understand from the article about? And what question 1 is doing, it's asking you to identify and talk about the main points in the first source. So question 1 will always be on the source 1. It's worth 8 marks, and so that should take you about 15 minutes to read the article and write an answer. And in those 15 minutes, we'll be looking for about 3 paragraphs. So moving on to question 2, all the way down here. Question 2, again, will always be kind of phrased in the same terms. It will always ask you to explain how the headline and picture are effective, and then how they link to the text. So in question 2, you'll be looking at source 2, and we expect to talk in more detail about the picture and the headline, and then you make links to the actual body of the article. Again, we're expecting about 3 paragraphs, and 8 marks should make it around 15 minutes in time you've got for that. On to question 3 then, and question 3 will be on source 3, and it will always ask you again the same thing. It will ask you to explain the thoughts and feelings of the writer in whatever the article is. So again, about 3 paragraphs, 8 marks, 15 minutes, and which brings us then to the final question in the reading section, which will be question 4. Now, the first thing to note about question 4 is it's worth twice as many marks as the rest, which means you'll need to spend about half an hour on it. It will also ask you to do some different things. It will ask you to compare, and it will ask you to compare 2 of the sources. Now, these aren't always the same 2, and this year is source 1 and 2, but sometimes it isn't. So you need to read this carefully. What you've been asked to do in question 4 then is you have to be talking about language and techniques, and so we'll go through that in a later walkthrough. But it's really important that you leave enough time to do question 4. Once you've completed the reading section, then the last 2 questions on the paper are for your own writing. And all the way down here then, we've got question 5 and 6. Now, one of the first things you've got to note is that question 5, you're asked to spend about 25 minutes on it, whereas question 6 you're asked to spend about 35. So these aren't equal. So question 5 will always be a describe question. So we can see here we've been asked to describe a memorable event from your school days. I'm sure there's a lot of those. And you're also asked to explain in this as well. The examiner for 16 marks is looking for about a side of writing, a couple of good, well-developed paragraphs. Once you've done that, you're on the home straight, and there's just question 6 all the way down here. Question 6 is the big writing question. Again, it's really important that you do this well because it's worth an enormous amount of marks, 24 marks. You will usually get a statement. This one is that it's much nicer to live in the countryside than it is to live in the city. And you'll either be asked to argue or persuade. And we advise that you treat these both as the same thing, that you use either eat a deer or add a forest techniques, and that you write an argument. Again, the examiner's looking for about 2 sides of writing on that, so you've got to get cracking. Once you've finished that, you are home and dry, and that is the end of the exam.